strike 2 o'clock on my side. It is Friday the 13th. I'm going to say nothing about that, but it is Friday the 13th, 2024 at 2 o'clock. And this is the Standing Committee for Social Development. I wish to extend a warm welcome to all honourable members present today. I've also received notice that Minister Lont might be joining us or will be online this afternoon. We do have the Western Cape Department of Social Development present, so thank you very much for you being here today as well. Honourable members, I will give an opportunity to all present to introduce themselves. I also see representatives of GMT in the province as well of the South African Police Services. So before we proceed, we have members in chambers as well as members online. I will also afford them an opportunity. I think we just need to deal with the introductions first before we proceed. My name is Wendy Kaiser-Philander, and I'm the chairperson for the Standing Committee on Social Development in the Western Cape Provincial Parliament.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good afternoon to everybody present. I'm Member Boyson, and I'm a member of the Standing Committee.
Good evening. I'm Donita Stevens, and I'm a member of this committee.
Thank you very much. That deals with the members in chambers, members online.
Good afternoon. It is Leon van Wyk. I'm a member of this committee, and Chair, as you've mentioned, it is just decaphobia today, being Friday the 13th. Good afternoon to everyone.
Good afternoon, Member van Wyk, and thank you for joining us. I'm just checking on my side if there's any other members.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. It's Grant Marie online, and I'm an alternate member of this committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Marie, and you're most welcome to the Standing Committee. And then to our guests in chamber, you may proceed to introduce yourselves.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, members, colleagues. My name is Antoni Janse van Rensburg, and I'm the Director for Fleet Services at Government Motor Transport within the Mobility Department.
Good afternoon, Chair. I'm Major General Makasalala. I'm the Deputy Provincial Commissioner responsible for crime detection.
Good afternoon, Chair and honourable members. I'm Lieutenant General Patikir, Provincial Commissioner in Western Cape.
Good afternoon, Chair. I'm Commissioner Roberts. I'm representing City of Cape Town, Safety and Security.
Good afternoon, Chair and honourable members. I'm Robert MacDonald, Head of Social Development in the Western Cape.
Good afternoon, members. I'm Annemie van Reenen. I am the Chief Director responsible for the service delivery areas across the province.
Thank you very much. Dr. MacDonald, do we have any officials online?
Not sure, Honourable Chair. We didn't invite any to come online, so we only had the physical meeting details.
Sure. Thank you so much. And then we do have another member joining us. Member, you're just in time for the introductions.
My apologies, Chair. My name is Rachel van Vogel.
Good afternoon,
everyone.
Thank you very much, Member van Vogel. And then we do have guests with us this afternoon. Will you kindly move to a mic to introduce yourselves for the record, please?
Afternoon, everyone. My name is Matthew. I'm a journalist from Ground Up News.
You're most welcome, sir.
Afternoon, everyone. Chair, I'm the Chief of Staff for the Democratic Alliance Western Cape Provincial Parliament Caucus.
Thank you very much. You're most welcome, sir. Honourable members, I think at this stage we can proceed. We do have a quorum, and I will just ask our procedural officer to introduce herself to you as well.
Morning, afternoon, Chair. My name is Yolanda Jamutse, Procedural Officer for Health and Social Development, and we have one apology that we received from Member Van Minen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And then we also assisted by our ICT services this afternoon, Ms. Candice Morris. Thank you so much for assisting us as well. Colleagues, as we proceed, a brief background into the purpose of this afternoon's meeting. During a briefing early August, the committee became aware that over recent months, there has been a disturbing increase in the attacks on social workers specifically within the Western Cape. And at that stage, the department reported to this committee that there was almost one attack occurring per week. So social workers, as you know, performs a very critical task in terms of delivering an essential service to some of the most vulnerable members of our society. And it seems like they are being targeted by criminal syndicates. The Standing Committee on Social Development firmly believes that these attacks are not just assaults on individual social workers, but constitute an attack on the state itself. And as an initiative from this committee, we have also issued a letter to the Minister Simelane, in that regard. These attacks directly undermine the state's ability to deliver essential services to its citizens, disrupt the operations of the Western Cape Department of Social Development, and places a significant burden on public resources. As we know, honourable members and guests, social workers are indispensable to the well-being of our communities. They operate already under extraordinary challenging conditions, and their safety and ability to carry out their duties must be a priority for us all, and that is the main reason why we are having this meeting this afternoon. It is crucial that we send a strong message that any act of violence against them should be met with the full force of law. For this reason, as I said, the committee resolved, it was a formal committee resolution, to schedule today's joint briefing with the Department of Social Development, the South African Police Service, City Law Enforcement, and the Western Cape Department of Mobility. We have received presentations in this regard. I believe all honourable members have received theirs in good time for you to peruse and formulate your questions accordingly. So at this stage, colleagues, I will ask the Department of Social Development to kindly brief us on the attacks against social workers in the province and the relevant interventions from Provincial Department side. I just wanted to check with you your time until 2:45. Will that be sufficient time? And we might even be able to deal with the questions and answer session during that period as well. Dr. McDonald or Ms. van Reenen, you may proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. van Reenen will be doing the presentation.
Thank you, members. I see somebody else's presentation is on, but I can speak from my one. Just to give you an overview, I will cover in the presentation the operational context to give members a clear indication in terms of our operations. What have we implemented and what is currently our constraints? We operate across the province. We've got 6 regional offices as well as 45 service delivery areas, which we call our local offices. And then we've got various service points. Some of them operate every second week on a Monday or a Thursday, or sometimes we go out once a week. We there utilize schools or churches that make space available for us to extend our footprint across the Western Cape. Then I think what is important to note is around the nature of the work, that when a social worker gets called out for child neglect or abuse, one of the key things is they need to go to that house. Sometimes it's the police station, which is a safe environment for them, but most of the time it is a neighbor or it's the hospital. They need to go into the home of the client. They're not only just dealing with the children, but we have seen a huge increase in the older person's abuse. Then they also need to go into the home of that specific client, which pose a use risk. We render the services across the Western Cape. In the rural areas, some areas is a little bit safer. We've also seen now incidents in Paarl area and in Stellenbosch Klapmuts, as well as in Linguletu in Swartland, which has become a little bit more volatile in the recent couple of months. Also, what is part of our work is once we remove the child, we place them in a safe parent's care until we've completed the 90 days the investigation, and then during that 90-day period, that child can be either reunified with their biological parents, or we can put them in a foster care. In some of the areas, we cannot even mention the names of the safety parents. Specifically around Alsies, Leonsdale, those areas, those safety parents needs to come to certain points where we can safeguard the children. If a child is being placed in foster care, our norms and standards is that we must supervise that foster care placement. So we need to go back to the houses of the foster care parents to see. What do we check? We check in that environment, is there food for the child? Is there a bed to sleep on, the basic needs? If there is abuse, then we need to speak to the neighbors, everybody involved in the life of a child, what is happening in that environment. And that is the big difference. As you'll see in our things that we've done, we spoke to CPF, we've tried a lot of the things, but the difference between us, and they'll always say, no, we're willing to help you. But the moment I explain this, and that's why I wanted to bring this to the attention of the standing committee, an ambulance, you take in, they remove the patient and they go out. We need to engage in the life space of that child, link into society, into the community, and that's the big difference. Then we render also the community development services. We work very closely with the communities to make sure that we've got a footprint, that they're familiar with our services, and we've got in some of the areas people that also helps us to get into those areas and safeguard us. What have we implemented? I've given you a breakdown specifically referring to our offices that is sometimes also being attacked, and then when we're outside that safe office space environment. We've got security contracts in place, but I think the big thing is that it is based on the safety risk assessment that is being done by Department of Police Oversight and Committee. Community safety, which will indicate is it a low, a medium, or a high risk based on the crime stats. Then what we've also looked at is how we can protect the government building, our immovable asset. And for that, we work very closely with the Department of Infrastructure, and we submit those inputs into our user asset management plan. And where we do have a little bit of funds and where they don't have, we'll put in burglar bars and security gates to protect. And also we looked at the fencing. Then my team daily, because we work very closely with SAPS, we daily check in with them. What is currently going on in a certain community? Is it safe for us to go out today and do home visits and to do removals? Or must we rather have an intake day at the office? So that is what we do daily. And then myself personally work very closely with the State Security Agency, and I also checked in with those colleagues and with the JOC, is there any other platforms? In the Western Cape government, we've got a WhatsApp group for the security managers, so they will also then post for us the latest indication is what is happening into certain areas, so that we know can we go out or can't we go out. We also participate in our area-based teams, specifically in the hotspots, where we work with the LEAP officers as well as SAPS is involved in that to see what we can do. So that is around the building. what we've done. Then when we're outside the office, which is a lot of the time because the social workers needs to go to court, and also, as I've earlier explained, in the areas for the removal of children or home visits. For the GG vehicles, we've worked very closely with our Department of Mobility for the smash and grab of the windows, as well as we've removed in the branding. We didn't do it for all vehicles, only for certain vehicles in the hotspot areas. Because outside in the rural areas, the branding is very important because it's like a hope somebody from government is coming to render service. So we keep that in the areas where it's safe for us. And then now we've got the Department of Mobility where they're now helping us removing the number plates as well. And the trackers, and I'm sure they will deal more with that, what they have helped us in the last couple of months. We've also amended our own policy to make sure that we allow staff to use their private vehicles and then they can claim back, because it is amazing how the social workers are so keen to do their work, and they ask me is, can I use my own vehicle? In some of the areas like Guguleto and Philippi, they will operate mostly at the Weinberg courts. So we need to go and fetch the clients, take them to court. So that in itself is a risk. So they really want to do that. Then we've, a couple of years ago, HUD approved for us to have a buddy system. What does that mean? We're rendering in 24-hour services after hours. The rule is you not going out on your own. You've got a buddy that you partner with, and even during daytime in the hotspot areas, a social worker will never go out alone. They will make sure that she's either got a social auxiliary worker or another social worker that needs to go to that same area to render services, that they're never alone. Then we work very closely with our SAPS colleagues with the removal specifically of our children, that we're not on our own, that they accompany us. HUD has also given a standing instructions to our staff that they will not go out in the high-risk areas if there's nobody from SAPS that's being escorted. What we've also seen recently is the children has become a little bit more violent. So like last night, we had to then ask the SAPS colleagues, will you help us? And sometimes if they don't have vehicles, then they come with us in our vehicles. So we work very closely with SAPS to help each other. Then what we also found is a lot of the incidents is happening in the Kailicha area, and it happens they would have removed that child, and the moment they go into that area where their homes is, then they will hijack us. So we've asked them rather come to a central point at our offices, and then you take the GG vehicle from there, go and render the services, and you go back, and then you go with your own vehicle. Then also what we also done is, and I didn't add that, but we have also partnered with CPF. I've given an instruction to my team that they must attend all the CPF meetings. So we work with them to get the information, and specifically in the Nyanga and Gooks area, after we had quite a number of incidents, I myself went in and meet with them to see how I can assist my team. Since 2019, we had 41 incidents. 6 was the robbery, assault and threats, and then 35 hijacking and attempted of hijackings. In the areas that were largely being targeted was the Kailicha, Eerste River, but specifically in the Eerste River side, it's the Mfuleni. Mfuleni is becoming a huge risk for us. And also a lot of things happens after hours. Wynberg also, the Elsies River, specifically the Leonsdale area, Crossroads, Philippi and Guguleto, Delft. The thing that has now popped up in Delft is the protection money for us. That is something new because we were always very much protected by the community, but this year the protection money also came out for 3 of the social workers. And then Paul East was our incident 2 or 3 months ago, and then in the Langa area. Langa, we situated in the heart of Langa. So what was amazing there, what happened is there when they attacked us, and they saw the safety parent in the vehicle, they ran away. So yeah. Then what is our constraints currently? I think the biggest thing is with the security contracts, as a result of huge budget constraints, we actually need a higher grade security at our offices for them to patrol and implement more measures around that, but we do not have the funding to expand our security contracts to have a higher security grade. And then also for the more of the security measures, we've now tried to procure a metal detector and a scanner specifically in the high-risk areas, because we had incidents where they came in with knives, but it's extremely, it's R1 million just for one. And yeah, we need more of those in our offices, but we just don't have the funding, and also the Department of Infrastructure don't have the funding to expand more on the burglar bars and the safety gates and all of those. So that's our constraints. Thank you.
Honourable Chair, maybe just
Sure,
to
thank you
add,
very much, Ms. van Reenen. Dr. McDonald?
just to mention from my side, I think to emphasize the 41 matters since 2019, of those matters, 34, actually no, sorry, 32 were in 2023 and 2024. And the bulk of them have been in 2024. I can count here, but if I look at the case numbers, they are, the cases are primarily this year. So there's been a very sharp escalation. There was almost no cases in 2019 or 2020. I think there was 1 or 2 in 21 and 22, but then 23 it just started, and this year it's really escalated. So there's a new trend in the last year and a half or so.
Thank you very much for that information and that breakup in terms of cases as well. And I think that is why we found it important that we do have to, not many people know that this is currently the case. We normally, when we think about police escorting, we think about emergency, medical emergency staff, but I'm sure it's something new for members of the public to, for example, to hear about social workers going through exactly the same. And I think putting the emphasis on this matter, also creating awareness and hopefully doing our part in stopping this scourge. Members, we have now heard from the department. I think as we deal with the presentations, while it's still fresh in our memory, we can then deal with the subsequent questions for clarity. I'll also deal with your follow-up questions. And if there's instances where we need more information, we will deal with that during our recommendations and resolution slot at the end once we've excused everyone and then ask the department for more information. I think, is there any member, any questions? I'm sure there is. While members are gathering their thoughts, I would perhaps just want to know in terms of, it seems like there's many adjustments made, for lack of a better word, by the department, like you've mentioned, Ms. van Reenen, in terms of policy adjustments. Is there any additional cost to the department to that? I know now social workers can use their own vehicles and they can claim back. What is the cost difference from them using their own vehicle and from using a government vehicle in that regard? And also if you can perhaps give us more insight into the protection money issue, which you mentioned is also something new. Thank you.
I think the buddy system is costing you more, because now it would have been one social worker which you needed to pay overtime, specifically after hours. Now it's 2 staff. So there's an additional cost. And the other thing is when they go out during the day, they've now become so clever, so they plan properly. But because they need to be more than one, it's got an impact on service delivery. That if everybody can go on their own and do what they need to do, obviously you can improve your service delivery and do more foster care supervision visits and home visits and all of those. But I think the cost in itself is the main cost driver is the overtime. We this week had a strat planning session, and the CFO said we planned 20 million for overtime, which is huge. Then the protection money, the two incidents was specifically for, I think what they've noticed, what we pick up is they know we've got laptops. Now with the implementation, which you also attended, Chairperson, is that they now know we've got cell phones also. So the vehicles is specifically what we picked up, and I mean, I think the colleagues that knows these things better is in Graceland. What we pick up, the staff is telling me, is where the vehicles are going. They dismantle them, and then they sell the parts of the vehicle. Specifically the DELF, the protection money is you want to go out, you want to be safe, so give us money. So yeah, but for me it's a concern because DELF was always the area where we were really safe. And we had those I think it's two incidents of 2 staff that we reported. So that's a concern because DELF, we've got a very good footprint because we render the entire spectrum of services there. So yeah, they just ask money to be safe. Otherwise, you're not safe. We take your laptop and your phone and your vehicle. That's what happened there.
Thank you. Dr. O'Donnell?
Chair, I think also just to add, the GMT has also got to spend some money to sort out the cars for us. I think though that I mean they are really assisting. They've done a very rapid turnaround in getting. We've already got the first of the cars with the non-government number plates and things, but yeah, that does take some resources. I think also to add that, of course, we're losing all these vehicles. There's a significant loss, over 30 vehicles gone. So that has a very high cost. The other thing is, of course, we need to look at the brands of the vehicles. They're going for Polos and Toyotas specifically. So we have asked GMT also to look at different types of vehicles that are perhaps less desirable as well. So that may have some cost implications if we switch to different types of vehicles. Because I think we get quite a good deal on the bulk purchase of Toyotas and Volkswagen for Polos at the moment. So if we go out of that, then it might cost us something. Then the other thing we are looking at as well is the options of things like panic button services and so on for the staff, and whether we can afford that within our security contracts. But that would also come with additional costs.
Thank you very much, Dr. McDonald. And then members, perhaps just with your indulgence, as much as there's a huge cost implication with replacing and having to modify vehicles and replacing the cell phones and laptops and so forth, one of my major concerns also is the impact on staff, the human element. I mean, it's people, they've got families. How does these instances, how does it affect our staff? How do you find the morale in the department itself?
Chairperson, I normally phone them immediately when I can get hold of them. I mean, it is terrible. Sometimes I ask SAPs then to just maybe, if we accompany them, to do the statements. I mean, I sometimes get messages where they're saying, Siri, I can't cope anymore. I can't deal with this. What ends up is we remove them then to another SDA, service delivery area, because they cannot work in that area anymore where the incident happened. So they're hugely traumatized. What we do is we've got the service provider for our employee health and wellness. So they then immediately activate. But what the impact is not only on the persons that was involved, but it's on the entire staff in that areas. So then we will arrange specific sessions for that staff member. And I work very closely with the Department of the Premier and personally myself involved in that, because due to the fact of the trauma to staff. And then also we'll have that next day a debriefing session, a trauma debriefing for the entire team. Then what will normally happen is I've now tell them that you must immediately register an injury on duty, because some of them don't have the medical aid, and some of them the medical aid gets drained as a result of these. So we then follow the injury on duty route, which is sometimes a struggle in its own for all staff as a result of the delays by the department, by the commissioner to register, it does take quite a while. Today I had to deal with a case where I had to ask the Department of the Premier to immediately help because eventually they use their own medical aid and that get exhausted. Then what I've got across them is we, as part of the Western Cape's government culture journey, we also implement more measures. We've implemented once a month. They've got their employee health and wellness days, and then they are allowed to, from 12 o'clock onwards, do something as long as it's got an element of wellness in it, a fitness, and then they can, just be together and share and so on. So that is what we do. There's more in the scope of the wellness programs with how you deal with stress in the workplace and all of those. So that is what we do from our side to help them cope. Thanks.
Very much. I see Member Windvogel. You may proceed, Member, and then Member Boyson.
Thank you so much, Chair, and I welcome the presentation of the department. I just want to, if we look on slide 4, measures implemented, what is the extent of these attacks on government personnel in the hotspot areas, and is it only targeting DSD staff or government officials in any government official, or is it directed only to DSD staff? I'm happy to see the commissioner between us. So my second question will be then, what is the state security agency telling you about these attacks? Like, what is the motive? Are government employees targeted in any way for extortion or hijacks? And if so, why? I think you touched, because the chairperson asked the question, I think you are in a way covered a part of my question. Then lastly, Chair, on slide 5, I think it's mentioned about incidents. If the department can tell us how many hijacks took place and were the vehicles ever recovered, and were there any incidents that resulted in hospitalization or death? I will park there. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Windvogel. Member Boyson.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, my question would probably go to any presentation that might follow this one. Chairperson, we are lawmakers on this side of the House. They're the professionals. They're doing the work. They go through the stuff. And sometimes I believe sometimes the solutions might also be on that side. So what can we do? You know, and you must be blunt with us, and it will probably go to SAPS as well. What can we do? Because those SAPS escorts is taking SAPS also out of what they're supposed to do. Then you'll have the complaints that there was no van available because the van was escorting DSD or something. So what can we do? You know, sometimes professionals don't want to tell us because they know, oh, they're not going to do it anyway, so why must we waste our time? Maybe today you must try your luck, you know, and tell us, you know, what can we do to assist you as the professionals? If it's extra vehicles, if it's armored vehicles, tell us. You know, you never know in terms of when we go back, where can we cut corners, you know, because you know what would help you. Because we blame SAPS every day. And now if you listen to what SAPS is supposed to do, you know, they can't help it. You know, so, and even with DSD, it's the same thing. Tell us, what do you guys think would assist you in these scenarios? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Boyson. Member Stevens.
My question is there enough trained police and prosecutors to assist the social workers in their situation? And I know they got rid in some areas of the lead police. And I think that is also going to be a problem. But I believe most of the lead police are now in the most dangerous areas. But if I listen to everything, to me, it's like there's still not enough police available to assist the social workers, because in most of that areas, they can't go in without police visibility or escorting them. And it is dangerous because most of the time it's women, it's ladies that's working in that areas. So I think we must also just ask, was they looking at the budget to assist the police in getting more police trained to cover all those areas, especially the dangerous areas? Because even gender-based violence is still a big problem. So we need to look at all the different angles. Whether it's budget related, we need to look at that and how we can assist. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Member Stevens. I think perhaps just for the purpose of this meeting, let us just try to structure the meeting. We are getting to the police, we are getting to the Commissioner from City Law, and I think we should, at that stage, based on what they inform us, direct those questions to them. I just don't want to put them in an unfortunate situation where they need to cut in halfway into DSD's presentation. So I think they've now had the opportunity to hear what DSD has presented, and they can include such in their address to us, but very valid of what you've made mention of. So at this stage, we have a hand online, that is Member Mare. Can we deal with the first few questions in chambers, and then immediately after that, I will get to you, sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Sure. You may proceed.
Thanks very much, Chair. So some of the questions were directed to the SAPs and law enforcement role play, so I won't speak to those necessarily, but in terms of the first question from Honourable Member Van Voorkel about the recovery of vehicles and what is the extent of the attacks, I think we have given the overall stats, and as I mentioned, there are 32 hijackings that occurred in the last 2 years. The attacks are also occurring on other government departments. The City of Cape Town has had their incidents, as well as the Department of Health and other departments. I think what is unique about the modus operandi that we've seen emerging with the hijacking incidents now is that they specifically seem to be targeting government garage vehicles. We don't know why, but it does seem like there's a syndicate that's developed a good way of getting those vehicles, dismantling the tracking system, and making those vehicles disappear quickly. So that is the thing that is specific to us, and it may be that it's other departments as well with GGs. But historically, we haven't had government garage or GG vehicles being targeted much because they've had branding on them and they're seen as, they're not the easiest thing to deal with. But for some reason, that has changed, and we do think there's a specific syndicate operating around these things, or syndicates, but they do seem to be able to disable the tracking devices very quickly. That suggests they have inside knowledge about these vehicles. The question about how many hijack vehicles were recovered, we did have some recovery, or some vehicles recovered. Some of the hijackings were attempted hijackings, and in some instances the vehicles were also abandoned after being used. So there's been a couple of different types of incidents. In terms of hospitalization or death, yes, there was One of our staff members was shot in the neck and had to be hospitalized. Fortunately, it was a relatively superficial injury and it didn't penetrate deep into the tissue, but it was still an injury that needed to be treated. We did also have another staff member who was killed, but it wasn't on duty. We don't know the full details of what happened to that staff member, but he was off duty. I think the important thing to note as well is that a lot of these hijackings are occurring when staff are coming back from their shifts, coming back to where they live as well. So it does seem that there's a specific modus operandi also to target people when they are coming home and they're perhaps not as vigilant. So it's something we've, as Ms. van Reenen has mentioned, we've said to the staff that we recommend they stop taking government garage vehicles back home after they've done their work. It's a little bit difficult if they're doing after hours work and they're out and they want to get back home safely. But we have said to them that they are, it is a risk they're putting on themselves, making themselves targets by going home with those vehicles. We will, I would say in the last few weeks, we've seen a slight downward trend in the number of incidents, which I'm hoping is a sign that we're turning a corner. And some of the measures we're putting in place might be starting to bear fruit. But we did have one incident last week, I think. But before that, it was a few weeks we didn't have anything. So we were hoping it is slowing down. But now that we've got some of the measures in place, the question regarding what the lawmakers or members of the standing committees can do to assess, I think. This session is definitely useful to us. We appreciate the attention and the concern of the committee and also the committee's correspondence with the National Minister about raising the seriousness with which these actions are taken. I think it should be applicable across all departments that are affected like this, including the ambulance services as well, because it's a similar principle. So we do appreciate that lobbying on your side. And of course, also we appreciate your support when it comes to the budget process for us to get the resources we need to try and make things safer for the staff. I think at this stage, those are the most important things. Certainly, we also have to think very carefully about how we help our staff. There was discussion of security personnel going with our staff. It is something we could consider, but it would cost a lot. And in addition to that, we have to weigh up to what extent that makes them a target if someone with a firearm is accompanying them. Because as we've seen, some of these criminals are not scared to attack people with firearms, including the SAPs. So it's a very difficult one to decide what is best. But we will continue to work with our staff to find what will be the best solution for them. So that we'll learn as we go. As I said, we do seem to be seeing some improvement. We will continue to monitor this and see if we are able to bring down the numbers, which in which case it would mean that we are doing something right. Yeah, thanks. I don't know if you want to add, Ms. van Reenen.
I can maybe just add on the first question is we've seen when we had the Khayelitsha shooting incident, that the staff was really traumatized because that is the staff member that was attacked there was literally the person that engages with most of the community leaders in Khayelitsha. And he's a child from Khayelitsha, so he was severely traumatized. So what we then did is we said, okay, everybody at the office, just to get them calm and so on, and to build up confidence to go again. During that period when we only worked at the office, the attacks increased on health. So it's not only us, it's health and other government departments also. That is just to give you a practical example. And then maybe just on the question around what more can be done. One of the things that I've done myself is after each incident, I go back to them and says, what can we as a department do for you? So they were the people that say and come off, can we use our own vehicles? So then I approach HOD and then they say, okay, right, here's the policy. So I work a lot with the team because they work in the areas. Even with the removal of children, SAPS has got the same authority for the removal of children than us. But I said to my team, I know it's difficult, it's dangerous, but let's help our SAPS colleagues because they don't have enough resources and they normally rely heavily on the social worker to help who's got the skills to work in that environment. So that's how we try to work together, being mindful of their resources. We did do pilot projects and so on, where we've got work closely with the law enforcement and SAPS in Kailicha area, but they don't have the resources to continue with assisting us on a daily basis because it's the nature of our job. So yeah, it's difficult, and then even in that scenario where they also attacked us and the law enforcement in Kailicha. So we've tried a lot of options already.
Thank you very much. Member Mare.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I want to thank the department for the presentation, and I will stick to what was presented today. Madam Chair, I just wanted to know, in terms of the department referred to the attacks on and the toll it takes on the individuals, the social workers. How does that affect the absenteeism of social workers, and also put the remaining social workers under pressure? And in terms of the cases that they have to handle, could someone perhaps indicate how many cases on average does a social worker actually sit with here? And in those times that they are not present or not available at work or able to come in, what is the process that gets followed in terms of allocating that particular workload? Then I just wanted to also know, in terms of collaboration, it is quite dangerous, when we send out social workers into some areas. It's tantamount to sending them out to a war zone. You just don't know what to expect. There's so many things happening. So I wanted to know if the department also has a collaborative approach in terms of networking with churches, networking with existing institutions that cater and render services to the immediate community in the areas. And then, Madam Chair, I just wanted to ask, in terms of the Tuesday and Thursdays that is set aside, if I've understood it correctly, that it is those 2 days that are used in order to do visitations. I wanted to know if that is the case, or what was the thinking behind the 2 days, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and the times that they focus their operations on. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Mare. Dr. McDonald.
Thanks, Chairperson. I also just received a request if you could let Minister Lont in on the online system. He's trying to get in. If he's not already in. Ms. Van Rene, do you want to respond to the question?
I have been informed by the procedural officer that Minister Lont has been let into the meeting. Good afternoon and welcome, Minister.
Good afternoon, Chairperson, and I do apologize for joining late. I was caught up in my other prior commitments before this meeting was scheduled, and I did commit to being here at 2 o'clock, so I do apologize that I am late for this, but I am online, and I do want to thank the HOD and his team for fielding the questions in the meantime. Thank you, Voorzitter.
Thank you very much for joining us, Minister. We know you have a hectic schedule, but you always make time for this committee. Thank you so much. You may respond.
Maybe just on the question around the absenteeism and the pressure on the social workers. We had people that has been so severely traumatized that they've been off for 6 months and more. But we're so used to having vacancies and dealing with that. So we've got a plan in place when that happened. The cases will obviously then those high-risk cases that immediately needs attention and where we need to be in court will then immediately be allocated be amongst the other social workers that's left in the team. We've got normally 6 social workers under each supervisor. So then those high-risk cases will then be allocated. The average caseloads, it differs from rural versus metros. We call everything outside Cape Town our rural areas, although it's not the right terminology, but that's our in-house terminology. And also, if there is foster care placements then and the supervision, then it might sound high, but the average caseloads is between 90, 110, but the caseload should actually be 60. So yeah, then we just allocate, and as I said earlier, on the high-risk cases so that we can comply with court dates. Around the question of collaborative approach with institutions and churches, we work a lot. I've recently myself with the team reached out to a lot of the church leaders in the Mitchells Plain area and also in the Atlantis area to assist us and working with them. And some of our parenting skills program is happening at the churches. A lot of those church members is our safety parents and our foster parents. So we work with them. There's still huge room for working more with them, but we started working much closer with them. Then I don't know, the member online asked about the Tuesdays and the Thursdays. I think it's which I explained in terms of our satellite offices. We don't have, they can do everyday visits, home visits. It depends on what they need to do in a certain area. So yeah, we don't restrict it to Tuesdays and Thursdays. If we do planning, when we did that little pilot exercise, then we only set aside certain days if we know it's a dangerous area, like Kosovo was a very dangerous area. So when we need to do something, we'll work on, if SAPS needs to accompany or law enforcement us, we will work with those days that they give us. But normally, every day is a normal day. It is, you need to go out because you've got a high caseload, so you need to go. We don't restrict to those Tuesdays and Thursdays. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. van Reenen. And at this stage, colleagues in chambers, any follow-up questions based on the response thus far? Covered. Thank you very much. Member Marais, do you have any follow-up questions?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you to the official for the response and for the information. And thank you for the clarity on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I just wanted to thank her for the collaboration that's starting with church leaders. I think that is a a very positive development, and I think that needs to be a serious focus going forward, especially in terms of collaboration and taking off some of the pressures of the social workers, and also to expand the parenting skills that's quite is very urgently needed in communities. If we just look at the stats, I think it's like 64% of children born does not have a father present in their lives. So it's a very important focus, I believe, that going forward. But I also just wanted to know, in terms of the caseloads and the vacancies, currently, what are the vacancy numbers that the official referred to? If there is such a figure in terms of shortage of staff. And then thank you for the information in terms of the length of time that the social workers are absent, or some of them are out of work. I think that is something that we need to seriously give focus to. And I wanted to do the final question, ma'am, I wanted to ask in terms of the children that's being taken, when they are taken from homes, is there a time limit that needs to pass before something or that particular decision is taken? Reason for the question is that I think the risk of the social workers going to and fro to the same house for the same case increases the risk of them getting injured. So I just wanted to know in terms of the length of time that it takes in order for the decision to finally be taken to remove a child from a home. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Baie dankie, agbare Maree. Ms. Van Renen or Dr. McDonald?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think as a department overall, we currently have over 560 vacancies, 95 of which are social workers, according to what I'm hearing here. The 564 vacancies are primarily made up of community development practitioner posts that we don't have funds to fill, as well as assistant community development practitioner posts and assistant or auxiliary social workers, auxiliary social worker posts. Quite a lot of them are unfunded at this stage due to budget cuts. We are trying to fill those posts to bring some support to the social workers. So the social workers themselves, we do have 90 odd vacancies, which are all, but they are all funded, those vacancies. So that's staff turnover where we have those vacancies. In terms of the question relating to the time frame for decision on removal of children, it will really depend on the individual case. So sometimes the social worker will do a home visit and the conditions are extremely bad. The social worker will immediately remove the child using a Form 36, which is an emergency removal because the child's in immediate danger. There are other situations where the social worker will need to do a more in-depth assessment before making a call on a removal of a child, and they will first seek a court order to remove the child through the children's court. So there's no one case is the same, but agreed there is potentially more risk if there's repeat visits to a site. The difficulty, of course, is also that if the social workers are working on reunification with parents, then they're going to need to do more home visits as well to check that the parent's situation is improved and the child can go back to that home. So they can't really avoid home visits, in the line of their work. But I think the suggestion I've also made to my staff is that where there is a high-risk area and they need to see their clients regularly, that they consider also asking the clients to come to the office and covering their travel costs if necessary. So that the social workers don't then need to go out to the same place over and over. Is there anything you want to add?
Maybe just, I think the one element is when you're removed and you've got your 90 days, which can sometimes become longer. And I mean, they do a thorough assessment. The initial to do the removal and actuarial and then the consensus, which is in-depth assessments that you cannot really do at the office because you need to speak to a lot of people and check the home environment and so on. And then even after you remove that child and you place them in foster care, then there's a supervision part for what we call in our environment the 159s, which is 2 years. You need to go every 6 months and check up. And then if it's a 186 until the age of 18, you need to go annually. So you need to check up. And then what we found a lot in recently is the foster care placement breakdowns. So then you need to work with those children and the safety parents in order to help them to deal with that child. So it's very difficult. You must be most of the time in the environments where the children are not. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I do not see any further hands online, none in chambers. So thank you very much, Dr. McDonald and Ms. Van Renen, for your presentation and input and sharing the information or the questions that was asked. We will now move on to our next presentation, colleagues, and that is the briefing. Perhaps just before we step off, can I just check with Minister Lund? Is there any input that you would like to make at this stage?
Chairperson, I'm covered by the officials. Thank you so much. And just on the vacancies rate, I mean, it's something that colleagues would see play out in other departments as well. But we will continue from our side to push that we get, firstly as a province, but then also as a department, a fair share of the budget, because as the members would know, we need to make sure that we have as many frontline staff that provide these essential services. And from our side, we're committed to that. And I also want to thank the members in advance for making sure that as a province and then also as a department, we do get the fair share at that stage and continue to lobby so at platforms that's available. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. And I think we can all agree it's very much needed. Thank you so much, colleagues. Our next presentation will be a briefing by the Department of Mobility. Director Antoni van Rensburg, good afternoon, and thank you so much for being with the committee this afternoon. And you will be briefing us on measures implemented to prevent attacks on government vehicles and transportation of social workers. Thank you so much for being here, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chairperson. From the GMT side, we have a presentation that will cover a couple of points, a short high-level introduction on GMT from a provincial fleet management perspective, then current implemented measures that GMT has already taken in support of the Department of Social Development, and then a short overview of the GMT project with the Department of Social Development on current developments on how we can assist from the fleet side. So a short introduction on GMT. Government Motor Transport is a trading entity within the Western Cape Mobility Department. We are the fleet provincial agent, managing a fleet of close to 7,000 vehicles, and our services consists of vehicle procurement and conversions, vehicle administration, fuel management, fleet repairs and maintenance management, fleet risk management, fleet finance, and GMT systems. The relevance for the introduction is to show the entry points or mechanisms for support for the Department of Social Development is from fleet as well as from technology that's currently available within the fleet environment. On the GMT side, as mentioned, there is quite a significant focus on technology, and our systems are also available to our clients via what we refer to as the Fleetman client module. And our clients, mainly provincial-based clients, with some national clients in the Western Cape and some entities as on the slide. That's just quickly to run through the introduction. When we go to the fleet side, it's quite important that there's two focus areas that GMT focus on. The one is the replacement of existing vehicles, because that's an entry point to enhance driver safety, as well as the vehicle safety matters that we can apply. Secondly would be towards the vehicles that's already in service and how we can assist with these measures without having a disruption in the service delivery of the department. So it is quite important to mention that vehicle tracking that's already fitted to the vehicles play a significant role. We've also added additional tracking solutions referred to as a BEMI device. It's actually a wireless device that assists with the recovery of the vehicle. So as our colleagues mentioned, these potential syndicates might have some knowledge about certain technologies, and obviously they go for the vehicle tracking unit first. Having an alternative unit actually helps us to continue to track these vehicles, and to certain aspects we have been quite successful in recovering the vehicles. As part of the vehicle tracking solution, orange driver tags plays an important role, so we will allude to that further down in the presentation. I think it's also evident to mention that technology plays a significant role, and within our provincial traffic fleet, we have used camera solutions with major success. And some of our other clients being the ambulance services within the Department of Health and Wellness have had similar challenges as our colleagues in social development. So obviously from a fleet side, we're trying to see how we can accommodate our clients using different aspects of the fleet management cycle. So to the point for today's discussion is how can GMT assist the social department? So one of the first steps that we received a request from the Department of Social Development was to consider replacing the GG number plates with provincial plates, as well as to remove the branding on these vehicles to make it less visible for the staff when they use these vehicles. So the measures that we implemented was looking at our telematics side. That's the data that we retrieve from our vehicle tracking system. Was the focus that about 59 vehicles are actually traveling in hotspot areas. My colleague did mention those areas, and they are definitely in line with the same data and analytics that we have picked up from our side. So we obviously focus on that for a two-phase approach in terms of how we can assist. So some of the standard features already in the vehicles when we supply these vehicles to our clients is, as mentioned, the smash and grab. That's the safety film on the vehicle glass. Obviously, having central locking systems on these vehicles, it keeps the driver and the passengers entering and exiting the vehicle safe. A new introduction was the implementation of motor plans. So with the motor plans, there is additional value-added services referred to as roadside assistance. That is quite important, that when the staff travel in the government vehicles and any event occurs, there needs to be help as soon and as quickly as possible. The roadside assistance definitely assists with that, and we will allude to that a little bit later on in the presentation. Some of our other plans that we also have is to focus on the driver safety, as mentioned, and to empower the transport officers to assist the drivers and the passengers using these vehicles with education and awareness campaigns. When the official wants to start the vehicle needs to be mobilized to start. There's currently two ways to mobilize this vehicle. There's the blue tag that doesn't carry the identity of the driver. The orange driver tag was a provincial initiative that was taken early in this year, in April 2024, to focus on the orange driver tag. So the advantages of the orange driver tag is driver identification. Quite important. When the officials are using these vehicles and they use their orange driver tag, we can, from the driver database, identify who is the driver of that specific vehicle, and should we need to intervene or render assistance, we can then, in terms of the database, identify the driver, get their contact details, and make contact with them, or to transmit that information to the transport officers to assist them further with mechanisms to assist their staff. We've also spoken to our vehicle tracking service provider, a company called ASOL, to expand the bureau services to live track vehicles when they enter the hotspots. So the hotspots, as mentioned, has been geo-fenced on the vehicle tracking maps. So as soon as the vehicle enters these areas, they are actually being live tracked to ensure that they enter safely and exit as well. We're also working on a mobile driver app that can assist with certain communication, as well as a communication mechanism for the users of these vehicles. As mentioned, there is definitely incidents where these vehicles have been hijacked, and other aspects where there was potential hijackings, and we've called on our colleagues at the Western Cape Operational Command Center to assist us with mechanisms and initiatives on how we can manage that. Our contribution to that is the data from our vehicle tracking system, as well as potential analytics. As mentioned, there is specific types of vehicles that are sort of looked at for potential hijackings, and there's also the specific areas as mentioned. The roadside assistance, we are looking into extending the roadside assistance not only to the new vehicles, but as well to the vehicles that's currently in the service and it does not have roadside assistance currently. Then the important aspect to mention is emergency contacts. That would be the GMT call center number that's displayed on a disc in the front windscreen of the vehicle for easy access. It's obviously double-sided, so it can be seen from inside the vehicle as from outside the vehicle. Our R&M service provider, Netfleet, also have a cell call center number that's available 24/7, 365. As mentioned, the AFSOL vehicle tracking company, and then also important is the panic buttons that are fitted inside the vehicle. So if a driver experiences any potential hijacking and they are in a safe position to activate the panic button, that actually creates an alert in the vehicle tracking system. And as mentioned, using the alert from the tracking button and the orange driver tag, that assists us to identify the potential drivers, and we can then assist with a variety of information that can be shared to assist them in certain scenarios. So how do we sort of package this in terms of the support from GMT? There's two ways as previously mentioned. So firstly, there's 482 vehicles within the Department of Social Development being managed by GMT. Through collaboration with the department, there was 112 vehicles that was identified as potentially vehicles in hotspot areas, and they were split into two phases to assist with mechanisms on how we can assist them. So firstly, new vehicles. GMT replaces vehicles on an annual cycle, and as we prepare these vehicles, they're currently not yet deployed to the client department. So when we apply these measures to assist, it doesn't impact on the service delivery of the client as the vehicles have not been allocated yet. So 40 of these vehicles were placed into phase one, and that was to fit the equipment as mentioned, as well as the number plates. So although these vehicles were planned to have GG number plates, we immediately swapped that around to CA number plates. As soon as you change the number plate of the vehicle, there is other fleet management aspects that also needs to be attended to. For example, the fuel card, because the details of the vehicle is actually carried on the fuel card. So we had to replace the fuel card, we had to change the number plates, we had to replace the licenses and so forth. So easily that can be done on the GMT side without any impact on the client. When we focused on the second phase, that would be the 72 vehicles that's currently in the system that's live with the clients. That needs to be planned in detail, as these vehicles needs to be temporarily taken out of service to, for example, change the number plates, the license disc, have a new fuel card issued to the vehicles. We do a check on the vehicle tracking system to ensure that all the maintenance is up to date. We ensure that the panic button is working, as well as the fitment of BMI devices if it has not already been placed in that vehicle. So the specific slide actually deals with the progress that has already been made on the first 112 vehicles, and it is progressing well. And as we continue with the process, we definitely learn from our clients what definitely works for them and where we can improve on our initiatives to assist them to get the full 482 vehicles to the point that all branding is removed and these vehicles are actually replaced with CA number plates. And that is basically the support from the GMT side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. van Rensburg, for your presentation. It is indeed welcomed. Honourable members in chambers. I see Member Windvogel, Member Boyson. You may proceed, Member.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity and also to the gentleman for the presentation. Chair, you can call me out of order, but I'm happy to have the whole team still here. So I will because I was thinking now while I was sitting here, and one of the members mentioned that we are the police, there's a problem when it comes to staff. And I want to check with the department, is there any engagement with the Department of Community Safety in the city, and also when it comes to the LEAP officers, when it comes to, a company, our transport or our social workers. And then with the presentation, I want to check, perhaps I missed it somehow. I assume all your vehicles are insured. If not, can you tell me how many is not insured? Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you, Member Windvogel. I think the same will apply to you as Member Stevens. When we get to the safety component or the safety stakeholders, we'll get to that. But perhaps at the beginning of the meeting, we should have resolved to have all presentations and then pose all questions. But we are in the middle of it. So, Member Boyson.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, my question again is easier said than done, but I do believe that, and Dr. McDonald alluded to that, we really need to look at less desirable cars, probably the ugliest cars in the market. I know there would be contractual issues and tenders and everything that goes with it, but we know they want Polos, we know they're after Toyotas. Surely we should get out of what they want. We should get into a space, Unos or something. I'm just thinking out loud.
Thank you, Member Boyson. Member Stevens, anything for GMT?
I agree with Member Boyson. I think they need to get a car that's not so popular, because there is specific cars that's very popular when it comes to hijacking. Maybe that will be an answer. Thank you.
I'm sure Mr. van Rensburg will get back to us on that, respond to you members. And then online, Member Kasim and Member Murray in that order. Member Kasim, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I think I've been covered by the first member's question, but I just wanted to add, or I might have missed it somewhere along the line, for those workers deployed to specifically hotspot areas, is there any anti-hijacking workshops for these workers, especially women? Because I know when I worked in the city of Cape Town, the staff would have these type of workshops, especially those who worked in hotspot areas. So if you can just give an indication if there is any of those workshops or programs, and then specifically for women.
Thank you very much, Member Kasim. And then we'll park that question with the Department of Social Development. Member Murray.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you for the gentleman for the presentation. I've been covered with the one question already. Thank you very much. I just wanted to ask in terms of the panic button, wanted to know when a vehicle is fit, whether the vehicle is fitted with a panic button or whether it is the individual that has the panic button on him. So when he leaves the car, or he walks to a client, that panic button is something that moves around with the individual and not fixed to the vehicle. I wanted to just get clarity on that, and then just in terms of the recovery of vehicles, could the official just give us an insight into whether the recovery of vehicles have been what the stats are. There are trackers that are fitted to these vehicles, but what is the success rate in terms of recovery, and are the vehicles reusable in terms of the longevity of the vehicles? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Member Murray. In the absence of any further hands, Mr. van Rensburg, over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. In response to the first question, in terms of insurance of vehicles, government vehicles are not insured. The risk for these vehicles are carried by GMT as the fleet agent. So it means we follow a self-insured strategy as part of our service offering. Clients do pay daily and kilometer tariffs for the use of these vehicles, and part of our service is actually to deal with the self-insurance part of that. So should we lose a vehicle, it would be a risk to GMT and the client would not be at risk, and we would then replace the vehicle. On the question on the panic button is actually fitted inside the vehicle, so it is placed at the strategic place inside the vehicle, that if the driver or the occupants in the vehicle do feel safe to press the panic button during any event, they can do so. As mentioned, we are looking at the mobile app, and that is a very good recommendation that we'll definitely put into consideration, that the panic alert can actually be used from the mobile app that can be accessed via a smartphone. So that's a very good point that we'll definitely take forward. Then on the recovery of vehicles, when we do recover these vehicles, most of them are in a condition that we can actually just do some small repairs to these vehicles, and then we can put them actually back into service. Some of the vehicles, by exception, are basically stripped down to a point that you cannot actually use the vehicle, and then we do sell these vehicles via our monthly online auctions to the open market. In response to the question on the recovery rate of vehicles, it's currently at a rate of about between 30 to 40%. It depends on timelines. Sometimes vehicles are, as mentioned by the department, abandoned, and they are actually quickly recovered. Some of these vehicles actually only gets recovered at the later stage, and that can mean anything from a couple of months till even sometimes more than a year recoveries can be made. So according to our current stats, we actually between the 30 to 40% recovery rate on these vehicles. Chairperson, according to my notes, that would be the questions addressed to GMT.
Thank you very much. Mr. van Rensburg, is there any vehicles that are found outside of the borders of the country?
So far, Chairperson, we have not recovered any vehicles outside. What we have recovered has been within the borders of South Africa in some of the other provinces.
Thank you very much. I just want to check quickly. I see there's a comment from a member in the chat box. My questions was not responded to. That's member Kasim. Is that your question on the workshops that is for the Department of Social Development?
Thank you, Chairperson. I think it was mentioned already in the presentation that there have been workshops with the staff around what to do in a hijacking situation and other kinds of risk situations. So the answer to that question would be yes, they have. The other question, Honourable Chairperson, from Honourable Member Windvogel, about whether there's been any engagement between the department and the law enforcement of and the city and LEAP, etc. Our social workers are participating in the area-based teams that have the LEAP officers in them. Where the LEAP officers can assist us, they do, but it's also very useful in terms of getting intelligence from the SAPs in those area-based team groups on where the current risk areas are, because the high-risk areas change all the time, and patterns of crime are changing all the time. So it keeps them also abreast of where the risk areas are, which is useful. But we, as Mrs. van Reden has said, we do enjoy good cooperation at local level with the SAPs and the LEAP and law enforcement, especially in the ABT areas.
Thank you very much. And then I see Member Murray. Is that a follow-up or a new question?
Madam Chair, it's just a follow-up question, Madam Chair.
You may proceed, Member.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I just wanted to know from the official in terms of the recovery. He said that there's a 30 to 40% recovery. Is it then so that despite the vehicles being fitted with a tracker, that our recovery rate of these vehicles are still quite low? And what would he say is the reason for that, where we are maybe missing something in terms of the purpose for which the tracker is fitted is to be able to track these vehicles, but we still have a very low recovery rate? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Member Murray. Ms. van Rensburg.
Thank you, Chairperson. That is a very good question, and we are currently looking into initiatives on how we can do that. For example, to change the position where the tracking unit is actually fitted inside the vehicle, because, as mentioned, there are syndicates at work, and they do obviously suspect certain potential ways of how they can disarm these devices to aid them in stealing these vehicles. So we constantly need to think outside the box in terms of how we can use technology and to use it in different ways. And some of it would obviously be to follow on the data and the trends that one also gets. So changing the position of it, as well as looking at the information with our colleagues from the police, can help us to increase the recovery rate of these vehicles.
Thank you very much, Mr. van Rensburg. Member Murray, you covered?
Madam Chair, thank you very much, and thank you to the gentleman and the official for responding. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much, colleagues. I don't see any further hands for questions for GMT. Thus, we will then move on to our next, not necessarily presentation. We haven't received a formal presentation, but I'm sure that you will enlighten us on the subject. We have the South African Police Service with us this afternoon. Lieutenant General Patekile, the Provincial Commissioner for the South African Police Services in the Western Cape. Thank you so much for your time and being with this committee this afternoon. And then also Major General. There we go. Thank you so much for your time and being with us this afternoon as well. So this committee would also like to know from the police side, in terms of strategies and interventions. We've heard the department speaking about how they need the assistance of the police. We've heard the members saying that actually when we complain the police is not present, they are busy with assisting social workers and many other work that you have to do when we actually need you to be where you need to be. But I think it will be enlightening for us as a committee to try and understand as to where you fit in when it comes to the crimes against social workers. We've also heard from GMT, and I'm so glad, Mr. van Rensburg, you didn't go into the detail of, for example, the tracking devices, because the last thing that we want to do is even sharpen up these criminals even more. We need to have that to ensure the safety of our social workers. So thank you very much for that, and for members also not diving too deep into that detail. But it is important for us to understand as to what is being done, what interventions by the various departments, and now we look forward to hear from the police as to what your part in the solution in this this issue that we're currently facing. Thank you so much. You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, the honorable members. I understand that there's an MEC out there, and HOD Commissioner Robert, General Robert. We've listened to, actually we were not exactly sure what we should present, because operational plans, we can't present them in public. But we wanted to listen firstly on the issues. And the moral of the story is that when a person reports crime, we have not been saying this is a social worker, this is a doctor, a nurse, and all that. But I'm happy that the HOD has got the cases which we'll get from here and then look at the status of those cases. But the few that we could find, and a person's profession that he said, I'm a social worker, from January up to end of the month, 14 cases were reported, and 9 under investigation, and 4 were closed undetected. Now, how generally the hotspot areas for hijackings, we know the areas that we concentrate on our operations, and stations that are actually featuring more on hijackings. Well, ourselves and the law enforcement, the Metro Police, which have just signed a cooperation agreement now, where we're actually operationalizing that agreement. We know that in Nyanga, Ikakuletu, Kalicha, Harare, Delft, Philippi East, and to a certain extent, Mitchell's Plain and other places. That's where we concentrate. But with those cases that we'll get, we will zoom to the areas where they were actually happening, and it will assist us to know what street or which block or informal settlement does that. We want to also to emphasize the issue of the role of government and the role of society approach, because these are the assets of the government, of the community actually that we're serving. So we've got to all of us guard jealously and protect them jealously, because they are the assets of the communities. So that brings us to mind that stakeholders engagement and awareness campaign should not be the police thing. It should be an all of government approach. And especially in the hotspot areas where we should actually ensure that we empower our communities. Why are the government services there? Whilst we'll also be looking at the groups, maybe there might be groups that are targeting the government, government vehicles, if that is the issue. We would have to look into that based on the cases that will be reported, and also from the government. What is that more? Let's see, what is the service? The government vehicles, transport. Yeah, GMT's government motor transport, yes. So that we can start analyzing that, which we can analyze and look and come back. But we have a priority committee under prop joints that includes social development. And part of those that should actually be, we should not be coming aware when we are called here that there's a problem. There should be, when we sit on those priority committees and say, these are the problems that we're sitting with, and come up with it. On, we had the prop joints on Thursday. Well, no, what was today? No, last week. We had prop joints where we should have received that information and look at it and give some taskings on operational level, which we can't at this level to do so. And that priority committee looks at one of those things is the drug master plan, and because what we've seen is that there is a tendency of the gangs and other people getting to the space of the government as an alternative governance. So we want to ascertain that, because we don't know if this is not the same issue. Now we talk about people demanding from the government extortion, and that has not been reported to us. Because if the government employees are extorted, now we got people to report it so that we can investigate it. If it's not reported to us, then it becomes a problem. So I think it's important that we do the policing, we do the investigation, but we work. There is a prop joints where all of us are part of, are the members of it. Because problem with extortion is that ordinary members of the community are afraid to report. But if us as the government employees are not reporting that, then it's not assisting, because it's going to be perpetrated without any stop. Even if it's one or two, then we're able to work on our own strategies to get to those people, whether we do entrapment, whether we do whatever kind of investigation, but we do. Now, we are in cooperation with the city on the hotspot areas, and as far as CCTV cameras are being rolled out in the areas, because that's one technology that we're looking at. And we are on the issue on embarking on more drones to patrol the areas, but we can only know if it has been hijacked, if it's reported. I'm not sure what time does it take with the panic button and the reporting of that hijacking, whether it's, we'll look at it. When was it hijacked? What time was it reported? Because we know from where we are, some people, they come after 2 days to say we've been, I'm not saying this is what's happening with this social development, we've been hijacked. Or some after 5 days, 5 hours has elapsed, because it's important, the reaction time, so that we can follow that, especially if there are tracker systems that are built in, so that we can follow that. And I think I am happy that you're looking at the cameras in the vehicles, because if we're looking at the buses of Golden Arrows, and when they put in cameras, the hijackings and robberies in the buses, they declined. And also some of the companies that are delivering goods to the townships, when there are cameras, they're not getting robbed, because they know that the cameras, you can damage it by just recording on the sky, on the, what is it called, iCloud or something. So we need that information. But what we're doing is, in areas of hijacking, we know where the hijacks are happening, at what time. But not necessarily that hijacking is a social worker or any other person. Since we started now in July, we've seen a lot of decline in many of areas where we put in stationary vehicles around those first areas. But at the same time, it might not be the same system with social workers. I don't believe that it would be where there's a sort of arrangement in many of our hijacking, especially those delivery trucks, that you arrange that you'll be hijacked. So we've arrested some of the people on that, generally in the community side. I don't think that the government people could do that. So it's important, the reaction time is important to us when it is that. Yes, there are areas which even the Google cannot read in our own townships. You're looking for song all over the state on the Google, you can't find it. And that's one other thing that I think with the city, when mapping out those whole thing, again, Google and other people that are dealing with the areas, we'll have to look at it in terms of, if I'm in Brown's Farm, working in one of those squatter camps there, or sanitizer or social distance or anyway, that is not in the map. And it's the people that need the service. And obviously those are the people that you've got to park a vehicle somewhere and you walk to that distance to find. And I think the social workers are also in the same predicament as us when it comes to that. So the environmental designs are also much of the problem, which is you can't blame anyone because there was this part of the COVID when everybody just started mushrooming of the informal settlement. But engagement in those areas, what we're doing with the communities, we have established many community patrollers in many of those areas and neighborhood watches, CPFs. We've seen the results in many of the areas that we're getting the cooperation. But I think it's important that we go there jointly in those areas. And whenever we have imbizos there, whether it's a sector or was Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, we're doing engagements, awareness campaigns. We jointly together go and educate the community why, and also in as far as the school safety is concerned, if we start with the children at school and to educate the importance of the government properties, that because they will have to inherit them in the future. And that message goes to the parents at home. And it actually gets better when it comes with the children. We've seen it happening in many of the things. Yes, the other problem that I think which we will have to work on with ourselves as a city, the city has, we're now collaborating in the streets that we are seeing as the areas where hijacking is happening because of the poor or the bad conditions of the roads. We have gone as far as to say, if the city is not able to, or they are intimidated there, we are prepared to put in vehicles ourselves, to have a vehicle there to make sure that that road is fixed. So that vehicles can move freely. You don't have to stop because there is a bad road or a bad potholes in the area, because that's what has actually contributed more in these areas with the hijackings and all that stuff. So we're looking at many other things to deal with. Once operational, we deal with it and investigation, but on the other side, the environments that we're looking at and the CCTV cameras, the artificial intelligence that we are looking at to ensure that. But we're welcome for any chair, for any other suggestions. But I think it is our whole society approach that is important. And we have been saying, once we're dealing with the old people now, we've got to investigate, to invest on the young children that are at school and to make sure that those children, they go and finish their education, grade 12. If not, those who are diverting to technical schools or vocational schools, so that there is an alternative in life. Because at this stage, the people that are, I wouldn't be surprised if there are young people, young children, young boys that are hijacking these vehicles. But in our own analysis, the people that were arrested are very young. That would be between 14 to 19. The oldest would be the 25. So that is the economic group that we should actually be looking at as focus and redirecting them. And unfortunately, that's not our function, but it's a joint function of the whole of government approach. I think I'll stop there, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lieutenant General Patekile. I'm sure members are very keen to ask you the questions. At the beginning of the session, I was thinking, my first thought was, I would love to hear how the police assist the department or social worker when they come to a police station and they report these crimes. How do they get assisted? I also note you saying that what you've got listed is not necessarily indicated whether it's a member of the public, whether it's a doctor, social worker, etc. My next question would be, you also made mention of a priority committee that exists. Now, we as the committee took a resolution and we wrote to the National Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, Minister Similani, asking that these crimes be classified as crimes against the state for the mere reason so that the punishment can be harsher when it comes to these crimes. I mean, social workers delivers a crucial service to our communities and mostly our vulnerable communities. That was the motivation behind that. Are you in essence telling us, Lieutenant General, that these cases, you regard them as severe enough to have been reported to the priority committee and better support emanating from that would have been instituted, if not to these type of incidences and crimes? You can perhaps just provide clarity on that, please.
Well, hijackings in the first place, and they have a tendency of having people injured. That's beside the vehicle itself that it's an issue. But now, where there's disregard of the government, and obviously that is very serious, because if they're marked police vehicle or ambulance or government vehicle, it should be respected because it is an asset of the community. It's not only there for anything else than to render a service. The priority committee that in the Prof joins, we are the, I shall say, the official operational arm of the state. The JCPCS cluster. So what gets reported there, it has to be operationalized, find solutions on that issues, operationalize it, and well, it does not take away the legislative mandate, and which I will not get into what the standing committee has returned to. It says it's anything that helps us to prevent this or to deter whenever that one is arrested. For us, it will be something that's good, because the longer sentences, I think hijackings are classified as one of the serious cases, most serious cases, and the most feared cases in South Africa. And therefore, because it's not a question of you only, because you resist and then some of the people, they lose their lives in that situation. We don't really always say if you are hijacked, then rather not resist. But it's important that gets reported immediately so that we've found so many vehicles in areas, as the gentleman was saying there, we found some vehicles, but also important, the action time is very important. And as we work through the systems in terms of, we know that resources and budget is not here to wire the whole city of Cape Town, especially in the Cape Flats, in one day with cameras. But I think we've given the hotspot areas on hijackings and other serious crimes, especially in the shooting areas. We have short porters in other areas where we react because there is a sense that gun detection, and then we're reacting to that. But we're working on that, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable members. Boyson, Windvogel, Member Stevens. You had a question early on in the session, so you may direct your question now. Then, in that order, Member Boyson, you may proceed, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, in my previous life, I worked a lot with SEPs, and by now I fully understand what SEPs goes through, the district safety plans, etc., etc. And Chairperson, it is all about demand and supply. That is the first thing that comes to mind when it comes to hijacking. There's a demand for that Toyota, there's a demand for that Polo. And when I grew up, Chairperson, especially as a student at UWC, we would plan riots and whatever, what time we will start, 3 o'clock in the morning, and we'll all get arrested at 2 o'clock. The police knew, and we don't know how they knew about it. And people spoke about special units, maybe Commissioner, I'm not sure if we need more specialized units, that deals with these specific crimes. And then, Chairperson, I'm going to say something here, and I'm probably going to be roasted for it. In business, they say, to make money, you must spend money. And I want to say here, we must have the same attitude when it comes to lives as well. We must spend money to save lives. And in South Africa, we have track records on how SOEs were bailed out. SAPs, social development, those are the entities that needs to be bailed out regardless of how much it costs, whatever. If SAPs, if Prof Jones is telling us they're understaffed, we must staff them. If DSD tells us they're understaffed, we must staff them. We must find the money to do what is necessary to prevent South Africa becoming a failed state. Because all these things, the way how these things are accumulating, we're going to become a failed state. We have no money for this, we have no money for that, we must find the money. But here's my other question, Chairperson. With this demand and supply, we know with cable theft, it is the scrap yards and whoever. We've just seen in the presentation that you're looking for a Polo, it is chopped up. Are there chop shops in the province? And are we aware of where these chop shops are? And what are we doing in relation to the chop shops? And lastly, Chairperson, SEPs, all the successes of SEPs, the arrest, they find the hijackers and whatever, at the end of the line, there's judiciary. We see on the news, SEPs have done their work, and the next thing, the very same hijacker is boasting on the news, he's been released and whatever. That is the judiciary. And I think we need to have that synergy as well, where the judiciary must also come and explain to us in terms of when are they releasing these guys, why are they going out on bail, etc. And they just do the same thing, and we keep on blaming SEPs. And SEPs probably also reach the end of the line to say that they've done their work. So I feel for SEPs, but I also think that money should no longer be our scarecrow. There's no money for this, but there's money for any other nonsense. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Boyson. Member Windvogel.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I think what I realize is that our society is really sick, especially when it comes to attacking our social workers, health workers, even our churches. And we need to work together to make safety a priority for all. And so I agree with the Commissioner by saying that we need whole of society approach, or let's use the phrase of health by saying let's make safety everybody's business. Then lastly, Chair, I just want to check with the Commissioner. Do they, as the police have engagement with the local, let's say with local government, to identify how they can assist when it comes to the hotspots, cameras, roads, lights? Is that type of engagement with our local governments? Because that's the people who are responsible for that type of services. In order for them to do their job better. Then lastly, Chair, I just wanted to check, because we normally say shortage when it comes to the police service. It's always also this issue of shortage of staff. Actually, it's all over, not only in the police, but with the police, it's an issue. Is there in any way good news for the people of South Africa, of the people of the Western Cape, when it comes to more staff? Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Van Vogel, and then Member Stevens.
Although much progress has been made, challenges still remain in the fight against gender-based violence. There are limited numbers of trained prosecutors, police, or social workers to cover the caseload. There is no overarching policy to hold stakeholders accountable to their commitment, but most importantly, there is a limited budget from the government to sustain the model into the future. Is there adequate funding for 2024 and beyond to address these issues? That is the question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Stevens. And then we deal with questions in the chambers, and then we will get to you shortly, Member Murray. I note your hand. Or should we, Lieutenant General, are you fine? We take the question online as well?
Yes, ma'am. We can start.
You're quick with the notes and the responses.
If the Honourable Chair is allowing us.
Sure.
We'll start with the last one, the GBV.
Sure. We'll take Member Murray. You may proceed.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you to the Commissioner. I want to make sure it's the Commissioner, not the General, or is it the Commissioner and the General? Madam Chair, I just wanted to ask, in terms of the Memorandum of Understanding that's now in place, whether the General or the Commissioner can give us an indication as to whether that will mean that there will be regular fixed engagements going forward with the Department of Social Development. I think that having listened to the amount of attacks on our social workers, we now need to move closer to each other, the Department of Social Development and the police, in order to be able to regularly engage with each other and plan on the way forward. So I want to know whether there are plans in place to regularly meet with the department, or with the department's plan, so that they can collaborate going forward. Then in terms of the operational plans, when are the vehicles really available to be dispatched? And is that plan in line with social development's plans in terms of getting the social workers in the communities? Now, we know that there's a shortage of vehicles, and I wanted to know, in terms of the plans going forward, whether the Commissioner has already put in place any operational plans that works alongside social development's plans in terms of allocating social workers on certain days to the communities. Then finally, in closing, I just wanted to ask the commissioner. He said that he doesn't know when the social workers are out there. I wanted to know whether he will also make use of the police reservists. Now, South Africa had at one stage a large a bag, or I could put a component of reservists that were available. These are men and women that are highly trained and they are capable of acting as police officers mandated to do so. Whether the police reservists will also be included in the plans going forward to come alongside building capacity to safeguard our social workers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Member. You may proceed, Provincial Commissioner.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'll start with the last one. We are currently on a recruitment drive for more police reservists, and 1,000 of those have just passed their psychometric test. And then the next thing would be selection and getting to the training in an endeavor to supplement our workforce. But what has been currently the most partnership we ever had is the issue of the neighborhood watches and the community community patrollers, and they're doing a sterling job in all the areas, whether it's around the schools, around the hotspot areas, and anywhere. And these are volunteers, and I think all of us we need to assist them and ensure that they. Well, we looked at now in some of the community blues that the jackets for them, warm jackets and all those things, that's to when it is cold, and any assistance towards that, it makes their life, because at the end it goes back home, and human being again is when you get home there's no food, and you've been doing something state. All of us will feel for them, and I think that going forward is whether we have enough policemen. Well, we don't. But we have, the South African Police Service has trained in the last 3 years more than 30,000 policemen. And currently we have, we've sent now 1,000, just over 1,100 policemen are currently under training, who will be coming back to this province. And because we've seen where we have now, at least on the prevention side, we've upped our numbers, but then we had problems with shortage of the detectives, which all of them, at least 1,000 of them, would then come straight to the detectives. But you must remember that they will still need more training. As they come to the detectives, they've got a 3 months training that they must go to. And because whatever case that gets reported, it must be investigated by the detectives. If that case has not been investigated properly, it's likely that that person will still be on the street. So we're looking at that part now to ensure that more investigating officers, and so that we can attend to the cases that are reported, and we arrest the people that, because it's not everybody is a criminal, it's just few, but they beat the system, because the fact that there are not many people who are willing to testify, and sometimes that becomes a problem. So recruitment, we are hoping that we'll get more if as we'll get more people that are employed. But of course, we are also mindful of the fact that wherever we train, there are those who are leaving, and they get stolen. I don't want to choose Robbie now. They get taken by other departments and private companies. So it's an ongoing recruitment drive that we do. But I think it's important that whenever I'm sure even yourselves, I mean, the other department is stealing from us, they must be mindful of the fact that that service is hampered by the people that have been taken. But we keep on training people all the time. Now, the cooperation agreements, remember this cooperation agreement has been signed between the provincial government and the City of Cape Town and the Minister of Police, the National Commissioner. So in essence, it says that the whole of government, all the departments, we have work streams there. I think there are 8 work streams, which all of us, all the government departments will be forming part of those we're inviting. But we are requesting that senior people who can take decisions must be seconded in those, because the decision must come back so that and be implemented. Yes, social development is one of our best stakeholders, because wherever we get, the first call is to the social development, and especially in areas where you find children that are not cared for or vulnerable old people, and that it's the area of collaboration. Even when it comes to the children that are under the influence of drugs or anything, we call on social development. There is no way that we cannot work together, and that's our cooperation. It's just that we should have to look at enhancing it more, and in cooperation with the City of Cape Town, and that's what we're working on. And I think there's a meeting tomorrow, or if it was a meeting yesterday, Robbie? It was yesterday, and there's a follow-up meetings, but we are inviting all other state departments to be part of that. And it will assist us also, the government motor transport. Yes, mobility transport. That these gadgets that we're talking about could assist us to understand that there's a gadget there, and that information we can share it with ourselves in this vehicle, say no. Even sharing it means a deterrence, because they know that you're going to be followed, and not in many times we recover the vehicle soon, because we know that it can be tracked. And I do think that perhaps, but we'll discuss that in private with you, as your chair was saying about, we don't want to know where the gadgets are, but also are mindful of the fact that some of the people that are employed to put in this gadget, they get fired, and then they come back the other way around. So perhaps it's one of strategies that we'll have to look at, how many of those that we fired in these companies, and where are they? Because it could be those that are training the others to do the same job, because it was a good thing, but now they lost the job and they must go out and teach others. That has happened many times. So we will look into that. GBV budget, yes, it's never enough, but every year we got additional budget on GBV in the police. And I'm not sure what other departments they have budget too, that based on GBV. And that's the purpose of this agreement, is that we all put those in one kitty and then see what is it that can be done. We get one, we go and buy things. For example, we got the victim-friendly rooms at the station, where we got volunteers that are counseling the victims of crime. And I think we can corroborate there, because, I mean, we've taken that job, because the first entry of a victim is at the police station. And where those are taken to the care center, those for other things like rapes and other things. But some other victims, they get counseled there by retired teachers, pastors and reverends and all that. But it's a service that is there, which needs support. Even again, we buy coffee and tea and out of our pockets to assist those people who are doing volunteer service. And I am certain that service should be residing to somebody, but because we are at the police station, we took it over in the absence of any other person. It's with us. But we'll collaborate with the social development in tapping those areas, because we believe that if a person at the entrance get the assistance, it's more likely that it gets up to with us in terms of the justice plus of course you would get the social workers at one stage to do, especially in the children, the what do you call it now, interviews, and they're taken for diversions and all those things. That's a collaboration we have, because those kids are not with us. But at the entrance and the GBVs, we also have a GBV desk at the police station. Yes, we train them as police, but then we could, I'm certain that they could get some other skills if we will collaborate with the social development to train those people and also those volunteers. They just to capacitate them, and I think that that's way to go. Now, each and every station has got sectors, was divided into sectors. There are sector commanders there, which I think that we shall have to give to the social development all the numbers of those social, because they are on the state on those areas. They've got sector committees that are there, and the infrastructure is there. It's just that we coordinate it together. In other words, we got also ward committees that are in those areas. Besides all these things, if we coordinate all those people, we'll fight this thing together. That's the coordination in as far as of this agreement is concerned. What was the other question now, man? So, well, we talked about the shortage of staffing, but we welcome anything. The city of Cape Town is a force multiplier to us. And then I must say, we are working very, and to the extent that the city of Cape Town is assisting us, even in terms of accommodation. We now just got the contact port in Brown's Farm at the library, and we're looking forward for other accommodation in terms of the agreement. And we've worked on that, especially even before we signed this agreement, we've been working together. But it's a question of now going out there, all the resources, and sharing some other data that we were looking at how best we operationalize that. But we see the positive and need for a more specialized unit. Well, there are specialized units. For example, in these hijackings and all that, we got what we call serious violent crime and organized crime that we have established. We're enhancing them, and we have been taking down groups. For example, in the N1 group on the truck on the hijackings, that was the Zimbabweans, quite a number of them, and that we just took down. So there are groupings that we're working on, especially on the hijackings. We've taken some groupings, but as you take this one, there's other mushrooms, like in the gangs, when you take the top management and then the other group, they start coming up or they start fighting themselves for leadership in that space or the TEF. So these are the things that we look for. We're looking for all wisdom to how best do we discourage that from happening. If we take that group out, there's a void that is created, and then that void, then you will see there's a flare. Either when there's a flare, it's either we arrested a group, or some people have been released on either finish their sentences or on parole. So those are the things that we're trying to find wisdom on how do we counteract on those matters. And I think it's important that the partnerships and the ownership of the safety, as the Honorable was saying, let it be, we own the safety, all of us. And we've been doing it before. And with this issue of the extortion, which is now an issue, we've got to nip that by the bud, all of us, because we can't allow that in our own, but we need each and every person's undivided role towards preventing that. Yes, we got a toll-free number for extortion in the province. That is 0800 314444. That number has been used, but at some times it's underutilized. People are not reporting. It will not tell you, you will not be shown like somebody is phoning from your phone. It's just an ordinary, you know, those old handset from Telcom with now nothing, no screen, because we want to ensure that we don't take your number. You give us information, where and addresses and everything. Then we have our own way of following that information. When we follow that, that's why we have a number. And when it was read in the newspaper yesterday, you saw that Western Cape has had a number of more arrests on extortions and kidnappings because of that toll-free number. But we're encouraging that. Let us encourage everybody. But if in these, these we've now moved these hijackings, people are reporting into that number, and then we some of them we foil them before they do it, because we are informed that in that street they're going to be an hijacking. These are the people that are going there like this. They've been assisting us, but we want that to be used more. Thank you, Chair. Oh, the interaction with the local government, yes. Commissioner Roby, I think I must leave that for you to answer. I don't want to talk for your behalf. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon. Chair, I can, and to all the members, I can just vouch what General particularly indicated. There's really a good collaboration between the safety and security of the City of Cape Town. But when you get to local government, it is not only the City of Cape Town, so it's all 11 directorates that are part and parcel. And what I can indicate to you is that these particular crimes are also committed against our own members within health, within water and sanitation, within social development. Our vehicles are also getting hijacked. And that is where there's a close collaboration with General Makashalala in terms of investigation, with regarding to intelligence, with regarding to operational deployment. We're following the 6-pillar approach of the 5-pillar approach of the South African Police. Pillar 1 is intelligence and information gathering, and there we provide and share information between us, and also in Pillar 2, the operational approach, as well as the ISR, the Eye in the Sky, with regarding to investigations. We are not only assisting, we also assist the Hawks with regarding to investigations, specifically on kidnapping and hijacking. And then Pillar 5 is communication, where specifically were awareness campaigns or in business, we are doing it as partners together. Currently, what we are also doing from local government side is escorting our own directorates in problematic areas. When it comes to provincial government and they request the city for assistance, they work through a nodal point in my office where we assist, and as far as possible, we can assist in the hotspot areas with regarding to escorting. But there's a close relationship between us and the South African Police, not only with the police, but with correctional services, with the Department of Home Affairs, with social services within the province, with the Department of Education, and then also with POCs in terms of operational coordination. So that is what I can really indicate to you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Roberts, for also being here with us today. Perhaps just from my side, any case specifics in terms of attacks on social workers that the city has been assisting with or escorting?
Chair, not really. Because I'm not a custodian of statistics, so I would not know really what's the situation out there. Although we know we are getting on ground level, we are briefed about the situation. but we are open. I've got a water meeting on a Tuesday, a Thursday, as well as on a Saturday, where we can get somebody from Provincial Social Development to be part of that particular water meeting. As the General also indicated, there's a priority committee on social development where the city is also a role player and where we can share information. And they're more than welcome. I think Dr. McDonald know me, and if there's any need from the department in the Metropole, we can assist.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Honourable members, any questions, comments? I see Member Stevens, Member Boyson.
I've
Will
got
never
one more
let
question.
the opportunity pass. Member Stevens, you may proceed.
I've got one more question. I don't know whether this is the platform, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Because to me, this touch social development, foster care, and the police. A granny approached me two nights ago, where a granddaughter of 14 years old, she's fostering this child because this child's father was killed a few years ago by gangsters for standing up to them. So this child is attending a school in Kraaifontein, well-known school. That school also got the award the other day, Bernardino Heights. And this little girl is attending that school, and she is being victimizing and terrorizing by gangsters that's not in school, that's standing opposite the school every day when the school comes out, to this point that the little girl don't want to attend school anymore. She didn't go to school all week. And the granny is also in a state. She was crying, and she's very emotional at the moment because she's scared of her child's safety. They did go to the police, and the answer was they very short of staff due to the fact that the Lee police was taken out of the area. So now the gangsters are taking over there. So what can a person do? Because I also went to the police station myself, and like the person that was in charge that day, I spoke to him, that was on Monday. So he told me that the Lee police was moving out of the area without even notifying them. They only found out the Sunday when they left the area. So there's no Lee police in the Kraaifontein area anymore. And I mean, Kraaifontein was top 9 for crime when the figures came out last week. So being top 9, I don't know why they removed all of them. So now they don't have enough police to cover the schools. So now this girl is not in school at the moment due to her safety, and she's 14. And I mean, it's exam time. And the child is in a state. And I didn't even know what to answer the granny when she approached me on Wednesday night. So I just want to know what can I tell that woman? Because I don't know, because I'm not a police officer, I'm not a social worker. So I think we really need help there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Member Stevens. Member Boyson.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I just wanted to say that we as this committee under your leadership, we fully understand the gravity that the professionals are going through. And under your leadership, Chairperson, we will do whatever we can to work together with them and try to alleviate all these challenges. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Boyson. Member Van Vogel? It cannot be. Okay, I see the strategy, but members must just remember, once we excuse our guests, we still need to stay behind for... Yes, and you know, I'm from out of town, and they say that traffic only quiets down later, so members will stay with me for recommendations and resolutions. I see Member Marais.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a closing remark, Madam Chair. I want to thank the Commissioner and the General and the committee, as well as the department. My closing remark is just in terms of the policing. I think that there is an important focus that we need to get back in place, and that is to get back the reservists, the police reservists that was lost over the past 10 years. We cannot allow highly trained police reservists to be out there and not be part of the solution in fighting crime. or allow any syndicates out there to offer any source of income to these highly trained individuals. So while I do acknowledge that the commissioner referred that there was a program now in place to get new police officers and police reservists, but I also want to also just ask that the department or the police, specifically in the commissioner, please get back our police reservists back into the system who has left the reservist program. We need them back because, as we know, they are already trained. It's just a matter of plugging them back into the system. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Member Mare. Colleagues, at this point, Minister Lund, any remarks from your side?
No, Chairperson, from my side, I just want to thank the committee for the diligent oversight and for highlighting this important matter. But that's all from my. Thank you so much for Friday afternoon. So colleagues, travel safe and enjoy the weekend.
Thank you very much, Minister. And again, thank you for your support to this committee and always for being open to engage with this committee. At this point, Mr. van Rensburg, Major General Makashalala, I'm getting there, ne? You must have you more with the committee. Lieutenant General Patakile, the Provincial Commissioner for the Police in the Western Cape. Commissioner Roberts, I'm sure we'll also see more of you in this committee. Dr. McDonald and Ms. van Reenen, thank you so much for your time, for being with this committee this afternoon. I think you are the professionals we needed to understand as we represent constituents. It's important for us to understand what your specific roles are and also how those roles fit into each other. Because very often we just shed the blame, but we don't understand how your roles fit together and exactly what it is you do to complement the bigger picture. And I think one thing that we do have in common is in this instance, and why this meeting was called, is the importance of the safety of our social workers, given the very important task that they deal with on a daily basis. So I'm quite happy that we have gathered enough information this afternoon for us to go back to the drawing board as the committee, do our checks and balances, do our recommendations and resolutions, and what emanates from this afternoon's engagement, take it further with the department. So be assured that we appreciate everything that you do, and we wish you all the best in your tasks. And once again, thank you so much for coming to this committee on a Friday afternoon. That speaks volumes of, first of all, you respect our oversight commitment, but also you've got the communities and our staff, of course, you've got their interest at heart. So thank you very much. A blessed afternoon and a blessed weekend, and all the best in your jobs. Thank you very much. Colleagues, we will take a short comfort break, so we suspend proceedings for 10 minutes. There is refreshments at the back if you wish to have them. So a quick 10-minute comfort break. 16:46, this Friday, the 13th of September 2024. Honorable members, if we can perhaps agree, I'm sure that you do have some resolutions and recommendations going forward, emanating from our conversation this afternoon. If you can, or rather, if we can perhaps resolve and agree to have those with the procedural officer by this coming Tuesday, the 17th at 2 o'clock, via email. Will that be in order with all members?
We support that, Chairperson.
Yes, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Online colleagues, Member Van Wyk.
Yes, thanks, Chair. I've been listening to the deliberations and the descriptions that have been given to us today, and I think they were all important. We must perhaps just ensure that these presentations are just circulated as well, because I think there are probably quite a few areas here that cross over, not from social development into that education space, the schools, for instance, and also into the whole area of community safety that we deal on a broader basis. So I think it's important there too that when I agree with you that we come back with those resolutions, but it is probably something that we need to touch on, I would think, as a committee at another meeting, just to reflect on what has been told to us and any advice and resolutions that we can then make as a committee. Because it's probably a fair amount that needs to be digested from the information that's been provided to us today.
Sure. Thank you very much, Member Van Wyk. Perhaps we do have a scheduled committee meeting the 17th, which is a briefing on the Older Persons Amendment Bill. So perhaps if I can ask members if we can then have your resolutions and input by, say, the 17th at 10 o'clock the morning, the latest. Then after our briefing, we can just speak to it so that we're on the same page.
Now they need to be before that, Chair, because 10 o'clock I'll be in the meeting. Maybe if members can send it before the meeting, I don't know whether 8 o'clock.
Oh, yes.
Because we will be in that briefing at 10 o'clock.
Then Monday, close of business.
Yes, I think Monday.
Monday, close of business, please forward. And then Member Van Wyk, we will speak to it after our briefing on Tuesday. Is that in order? And we'll speak to the overlap, as you said, or there's any of the matters we should refer to other committees or even collaborate with other committees.
Yes, certainly, I agree with you. I think we just need to I think we all need to be quite aware of the challenges that are being faced, and they spill over, as I've mentioned, into the other committees as well.
Sure, we'll then speak to it on Tuesday. Thank you very much, honourable members. That deals with our business today. Thank you for your indulgence. Ms. Jamke, Mr. Daza.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Colleagues, the meeting is adjourned. Have a blessed week.